been talking about the chapter learning in our last 2 classes. Now just let's try to remember, what is learning?
Relatively permanent change in the behavior which causes due to experience or practice.
Very good. So please remember, when you say the word learning, it means it's a relatively permanent change. It is not a temporary change. It doesn't happen today and you just forget about it tomorrow. It has to be permanent, and it is a result of experience and not maturation. Now just to remember, what is maturation? Maturation is the unfolding of genetic traits. Don't forget that maturation is different, learning is very different. And today we are going to talk about cognitive influences on learning. Now could you tell me, what do you think is the meaning of the word cognitive?
The mind.
Very good, mind.
Thinking.
Thinking, excellent. Could you remember the first or the best definition of psychology? Psychology is a scientific study of
mind and behavior.
Very good. Behavior and mental processes. So today we are going to study more about these mental processes. What are the mental processes? They could be thinking, they could be knowing, they could be understanding and anticipation. When we are talking about cognitive learning, we are now talking about learning that needs the higher processes of thinking. And there we need the more advanced level or the more advanced section of the forebrain, the cerebrum. So all these higher order activities are now controlled by the cerebrum, and that is what we are going to learn today under the broad heading of cognitive learning. We are now going to talk about how is it just by thoughts, by thinking, by imagining, by with the help of language, with the help of imagery, how is it I'm able to solve problems? I cannot observe it directly, but I know there are some changes that do take place, and the changes are permanent, that do take place because of experience. And that's what we are going to discuss today under cognitive learning. The first proponent of this theory is Wolfgang Kohler. Kohler was a Gestalt psychologist. How many of you can remember what is Gestalt psychology?
Gestaltists say that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Very good. Gestalt means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And it was in the early 20th century when Kohler did some experiments in Germany with the help of a smart chimpanzee known as Sultan. Now let's look at the picture. There you see Sultan. There were so many classic examples, classic experiments conducted on Sultan. But one of the experiments is Sultan was put in a cage, and there was a banana hanging on top. Sultan tried a little bit here and there, started walking. He started jumping and walking about, trying to get the banana. He tried to stand on one box, tried to stand on the other box, and he just couldn't reach his goal. And his goal was reaching the banana, getting the banana. And for some time he was just quiet, when suddenly there was a change. There were a series of movements where he put both the boxes, he put one box on top of the other box, he climbed on top of both the boxes, he reached the banana and he ate it. And this kind of learning that took place, that sudden learning that took place, is known as insightful learning. So, insightful learning is one form of cognitive learning. Anytime when you are tired after learning maths so much and you still can't come to the answer, you go and sit in a corner, and then suddenly, or maybe you go back to sleep or you go for a walk, and then suddenly there is a rearrangement of the elements in your perception and you experience the aha feeling. So the first important thing that characterizes insightful learning is the aha feeling. Insightful learning is the sudden learning or resolution or action after a period of study during which there is no action or apparent understanding. I've already told you that the Gestalt psychologist Wolfgang Kohler was the main proponent of this particular learning. Insightful learning is also known as discovery learning. Why is it known as discovery learning? Because I am learning with the help of insight and understanding. Insight, I suddenly get the solution, I grasp the idea, I've understood it in a jiffy. There is suddenly reconnection, rearrangement of the perceptual elements, and I've understood. And I've understood what? I've got a solution for my problem. Now we go on to another type of cognitive learning. Edward Tolman in 1930 was a pioneer in cognitive psychology. He made this point by conducting experiments on maze learning in rats. What is a maze? A maze is a network of walls, hedges, some blocks, and you have to find your way, you have to maneuver your way and start and reach the goal. Now what did Tolman do? He took 3 groups of rats. Tolman used rats as his subjects. The first group of rats, as soon as they reached the end, were given food, were given reinforcement, were given a reward. The second group of rats were not given anything. They took their own time to reach the end. The third group of rat also started the maze, took their own time to reach the end. Then suddenly there was a sudden manipulation on the 10th day. After the 10th day, Tolman gave food, gave reinforcement, gave reward, gave food for the rats. And suddenly there was a decrease in the time taken and the errors committed. And he called this as latent learning. So what is latent learning? Learning in which new behavior is acquired but not readily demonstrated until reinforcement is provided. There was a decrease in errors, decrease in the time taken to reach the goal as soon as reinforcement was given. Which tells us what? It tells us that some sort of hidden learning has taken place. This hidden learning is known as latent learning. So hidden learning is there, but it is shown when there is reinforcement. But Tolman gave us another fantastic concept. What was the concept he gave? He gave us the concept of cognitive maps. What is a cognitive map? A cognitive map is a mental picture. It's a mental representation that tells you clearly how to reach the goal, how to reach the end. The very first day you came to college, my young ladies and gentlemen, do you remember that you had to be told, go to the right, there is a psychology lab. Go to the left, there is a psychology classroom. But now you don't need anyone to tell you which is the left, which is the right. You can just go walking into your classroom and into your laboratory. Why? That's because you have a cognitive map. You have a mental picture. You have a mental representation. Even right now, you can literally close your eyes and you know where exactly is your psychology lab, where is your psychology classroom. So you find that cognitive maps are very, very important and they really help us in day-to-day lives. Even when you are studying, if at all you use many forms of diagrams, pictures, you can remember better because cognitive maps symbolizes cognitive learning. Cognitive maps also gives you another new concept and it is called place learning. What is this place learning? The rats used cognitive maps to identify the place in the maze where food is found. So some of them say it is sign theory, some of them say it is sign learning, some of them say it is place learning. You can just close your eyes right now and you can picture where exactly the kitchen is in your house. You can picture where is the bedroom. You know where you have kept your keys. You know where you have kept your money. You know where you have kept that precious ring of yours. We use mental pictures while we were thinking. So much of learning takes place because of our ideas, because of our information, because of knowledge, because of expectations, because of anticipation. You were all anticipating, oh, today if I listen clearly to my class, or if I finish the class fast, ma'am will allow me to go home early. So you listen and say, ma'am, let's finish the class, let's go home early. Anticipation, expectation, I will do my test well, and so you study better. So you find expectation, anticipation, knowledge, ideas, information, language, visualization, imagery, all comes under the broad heading of cognitive learning. Thus, there is no doubt that human learning includes a large cognitive or mental dimension. As humans, we are greatly affected by information, expectation, perception, mental images, motivation, and the like.
We get a representation of wherever we have to go. We form a mental representation. Place learning also is
a kind of a learning, while map is a kind of a picture in your mind. When I say learning, it means changes that relatively permanent changes that take place in mind in behavior and knowledge. So when I say place learning, I'm actually talking about behavior. I know that here is the place where I need to go. But when I'm talking about a mental representation, I'm talking about knowledge. I'm talking something that is totally internal, subjective, and the way you picturize is damn different from the way I picturize. So some of the people also talk about Tolman's theory as has also led to the study of place learning, sign learning, how signs play a very important in learning, how signs play a very important role in reaching our destination. And you have to remember that both human and animals show sign learning, place learning. They too have some sort of cognitive maps. Otherwise, how will you explain that after the 10th trial, suddenly there were decrease of errors when the rats were given reinforcement?
Ma'am, we can use all these styles also when we do our learning, when we are studying.
That is a wonderful question, and I think as we go ahead, you will realize that using your cognitive dimension helps you a lot to create new neural pathways. Discovery learning has also led to a kind of a guided discovery teaching. We teachers should guide you. We teachers should give you the freedom so that you learn through insight and understanding. At the same time, not only do we give you the freedom, we should also guide you. And this kind of learning is known as guided discovery learning, where teachers encourage you to have freedom. Teach you a little bit, but allow you to find. I don't sit here and I say, you've got to study, you've got to understand. I allow you to find out how exactly do I understand the topic, teach you the basic, but give you the freedom to go forth. Do your reference, understand, but come back for guidance. So if at all I handle freedom and guidance, it will help the teachers as well as it will help students to know more about a particular topic. So cognitive learning plays a very, very important role in our day-to-day lives. Practically throughout the day, if you are aware, there are 60,000 thoughts that are going on in your mind. And all the time you are acquiring so much of information, so much of knowledge, and so many things you are listening to. So it is present somewhere, it is stored somewhere. And so somewhere or the other, because of its storage capacity, you will definitely show insightful learning, you will show latent learning, and we are also having certain kind of pictorial pictures in your brain, in your mind. So when I talk about cognitive learning, don't forget that in systematic way, in an experimental condition, we have learnt it as insightful learning, which is the aha feeling, the eureka feeling, and yeah, I got it. It's that great idea that came to you, that in a flash you got the idea and it led to the solving of a problem. So we find that insight is not happening every day. It happens once in a way. None of us get that aha feeling every day, the sudden solution to a problem. It takes place once in a way. So you also find cognitive learning where you're taking in a lot of information. It is stored somewhere and it also shows as latent learning, hidden learning. And yes, you're right, it is also related to incidental learning. It's also related to subliminal perception. We are so powerful with our brain that there are times that so much of information is going in and we are not even consciously aware that it is going in. And especially as we are growing up, we have observed hours and hours of things that have gone on around us. Consciously, I have not kept my awareness open, but yet everything is preserved somewhere and it does show. But how do we do this in a very, very experimental situation? We have to consider the way Tolman reproduced this kind of latent learning, that hidden learning, very, very clearly in his experiment with the rats and his maze learning. Cognitive maps are very useful. Please remember that anytime and every time, whenever you leave the house, whenever you go out, you are using something called cognitive maps. What is creativity? A new, novel idea that I get that leads to the solving of a problem. So you find that though we are breaking it down into cognitive maps, insightful learning, latent learning, incidental learning, everything is related and it goes way beyond to creativity, solving problems, mental manipulation of symbols, you're learning a language. So we are finding that everything, cognitive processes are interrelated.
Ma'am, do blind people also have cognitive maps? The sense of direction that directs them, that you go 10 feet front, 10 feet right. Do they have the maps even though they cannot see things?
The blind may not have one sense organ. Our sense organs are our gateways of knowledge and information. So every sense organ has its own memory bank. Remember, you're in stages of memory, you have so much of information that is coming through your eyes, ears, touch, skin. So you have the sensory memory, it leads to short-term memory and long-term memory. So maybe a blind person cannot see, but he has another 4 plus 3. Remember, we have 8 sense organs. It's not that the common 5 that we talk about. So he is getting information from the rest of the sense organs.
So he also has a cognitive map?
Maybe not pictorially, but definitely. Now if I try to tell you, how do you feel when you touch your little baby kitten? How do you feel when you touch baby's soft cheek? You can immediately get the picture. May not be picture, but the tactile picture is clear. If I talk about the green mango, you do get a kind of a sensation. When I talk about the latest pop hit song, and what is the latest pop hit song? Desi Girls. Okay, Desi Girls? Oh, there. All those are cognitive maps.
What's the role of information?
What is the role of information?
In insightful learning.
In insightful learning. I need more information because every day I am adjusting to a new life and a new moment. The more information I have, the more I am able to deal with my environment. So information, knowledge, studies, reading books helps because we have to encourage, we have to build some more new neural networks in our brain. Even up to the age of 90, continue reading, continue walking, continue playing your puzzles, continue doing something, continue stimulating your brain, continue studying. Information is very, very necessary for your brain to be alive. And when your brain is alive, your cognitive dimension becomes more and more sharper. The more information I have, the more techniques I learn, the more skills I learn, the more I have choices in my day-to-day problem solving skills. When I want to know more about learning, I try to divide it into classical conditioning, operant conditioning, cognitive learning. But actually everything is interrelated. Even for me to bring about a relationship between a stimulus and a response, I need my thought processes, I need my higher dimension, I need my cerebrum, I need my forebrain, I need to think, I need to reason out, I need to decide. So you find that it is ultimately when we are using day-to-day skills, many a times we are using a mixture of everything.